Welcome to Tales She Told Me, a podcast featuring honest conversation about what it means to be a woman, a mother, and in business. I'm your host, Farrah Haidar. Today, we will be discussing community building, and joining me is Amanda Rumball. Amanda owns a six-figure community management business. She helps course creators and coaches by running their online communities for them. Amanda is a mother of two little girls, lives in Canada, and loves a good glass of wine. Amanda, thank you for being here. So, when I first saw your bio,
Mm,
I was drawn to you because community building is such a hot topic these days, and we see all kinds of brands doing it, right? And
mhm.
I personally feel it's not only in business, but in our lives in general. But we're going to focus on business here, because I feel like everyone now lives this life. It used to be like we'd separate online from offline marketing. And now we just live this hybrid lifestyle, right?
Mhm.
Where we're online, but we're offline, but we have to make connections in multiple ways. And I've noticed that the amount I feel connected to people or people feel like they know me is with how active I am online, how I lean into the different communities I'm a part of. So I guess for me, where I'd love to start off is how do you see community building playing out in business today?
So I think you said it beautifully, where it's definitely really intertwined nowadays, especially since the pandemic. There was a really big separation before, even in business, where it came to there was more mastermind events that were in person. There was just more events in general where it's like you could gather and meet. And now they're starting to come back, but a lot of more people are more hesitant, to be honest, and they
Mhm.
really do just want it online.
Yeah.
Maybe because they're still feeling the effects of COVID and the pandemic and all of that, but they're just not as comfortable.
It's so fascinating that you bring up events specifically because I was on Clubhouse once listening to event managers, and you would think events got really decimated in COVID. And so what they did was they built out all these fancy stages and everybody moved online and they made, I mean, some of these big, like the big names, the Anthony
Yes.
Robbins of the world stuff, made huge investments, right? And what they found was, oh, wait a minute, we're not limited to the number of people anymore.
Yeah.
We're not committed to an F&B minimum.
Yeah.
We're not like the possibilities were so endless. And they basically said they knew after the first year of COVID that was it. The industry was never going to be the same, that
Mhm.
it wasn't about coming back after COVID. It was about, oh, this is another revenue stream that
Yeah.
even if we hold it for 1,000 people, actually, you know what? Let's hold it for 500 instead of 1,000 and then sell 5,000 tickets online at a cheaper rate because it's virtual or maybe even at the same rate. But we can, and have basically smaller commitments to venues and stuff. And I thought that was fascinating. So yes, you're absolutely. I think COVID definitely did
Yeah.
accelerate that.
So I feel like when it comes to like community building, it's really twofold. It's an amazing thing because you get to meet people all around the world and you get to build a tighter knit community of very like-minded people.
Mhm.
On the flip side, even speaking from like personal experience, you do miss that in person. It's just
Yeah.
not the same. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, sometimes I feel very torn. But on a business side, like I think it's amazing. Like the communities that I personally run, they flourish
Yeah.
because people just love to be there and love to connect and love that everyone is like-minded and they feel very safe
You
in that.
know, it's interesting because I think loneliness is a big issue for us in the
Yeah.
States, and we move a lot. No, I should say North America since you're in Canada as well.
Yeah.
I think people move around a lot, and staying in touch online really helps. But one thing I saw, I told you I own a bakery as well. One thing I saw during COVID with communities was that they were sending out a lot of gifts. So this thought of, oh, I'm going to add a physical touch, right? Do you think that helps with the in person?
I do. And I've seen it both ways actually, which is really fascinating. I've seen if you're not going to be there live, you get the gift too, right? Which I
Yep.
feel like it helps build that community aspect where it's like you feel like you're just as invested and you're there with them, enjoying it at the same time.
Mhm.
I definitely think people love that. I think it does play into it where it just helps build that connection online for sure.
Yeah, and I think also from a marketing perspective, it's fabulous marketing, right? Because I participated in this 5K that was virtual, so everyone ran it at their own time and their own pace, but we all got this kit of gear,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
suddenly everyone's posting,
Yeah.
snapping shot and posting, and this, it was great marketing for
Yeah.
something that was, I wouldn't say free because you had at least had to send you the gear, but it
Mhm.
was a fairly like inexpensive
Yep.
event to do.
Yep.
Okay, so tell me, like, what do you see? Like, what is the most common use for community building? Because obviously there are industries that lend itself
Mhm.
better than
Mhm.
others. I come from a physical product something, so sometimes I'm like, can I really commit? Create a community for maybe?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. Most of my clients are online coaches or course creators, which
Mm.
obviously it's
Yeah,
almost a no-brainer to have an online community. But I do think for other industries as well, it can play a huge part if you're trying to transition online. It's a great way to build an audience, to have a lot of like-minded people. Um, and I think it does work. I really do think it does work well.
I'm wondering. I'm trying to think of a brand that does it well. That has like fanatical a product brand. There must be one. Obviously, you have like I would say movie brands like Game of Thrones, etc.
Mhm.
That they have
Oh,
incredible communities.
all of them do, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if there's a product brand that does it well.
I can't think of a product right off my mind, but I have seen the recent thing is people trying that want to sell a product.
Hmm.
There is a lot of communities around that to
It's
learn how
interesting.
to sell your product.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I'm thinking, who I'm thinking of, like a Patagonia or a Ben and Jerry's. That's a product company, but they have a cult following,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
there are people that are Ben and Jerry fans, and that's it. I was
Mhm.
actually thinking of it. It was a selfish question on my part, Amanda, because I was thinking like, because we were talking the other day, and I'm like, maybe I should just have a VIP customer group, like people that buy from us a lot, and then they get special time with us and stuff. But then I'm like, do they really care? Like, would they really want that?
You would
I
be
don't know.
surprised, to be completely honest. It's like, why not?
Yeah.
At the same time, why not?
I
If
mean,
you have
maybe we
very
try.
loyal customers, it's like, why not test it?
Yep. Maybe we try. So I'm going to take you down a slightly different route. So I
Yeah.
know that a lot of the people that your customers that come to you probably have a very intentional thing. Like I have this community, I have this
Mhm.
training that I do, etc. What if someone was unsure of their like the end product that they're going to sell, but wanted to start building community in advance? Like I can see a lot of writers doing that because it influences if they get published or not. Let's be honest, a lot of publishing companies looking for, the writers to have some social media traction. So
Mhm.
what is your advice in that way? Like, do you need uh, that or
No, you don't. So I have clients that don't have an offer. They don't
okay.
have an end goal, but they know they love they want a tight-knit community. They want that aspect for either business or personal because they want to be around more like-minded people. And we've done it. We've built a community and we've nurtured it, and I've helped facilitate when it comes to like offers, what it could be, something that we could sell. And if they don't, then that's fine. We just nurture that community. They might go live, they might do events, they'll put a lot of educational content out. And we just nurture them until they figure it out. And honestly,
Hmm.
those communities blow up. They really do. It's actually a lot more tight knit because it's less pressure. Yeah.
Wow, okay, it's less pressure because they're not trying to sell you anything, right?
Yeah. So it's people that actually want to be there and just
Mhm.
have something very like-minded. Like I've even seen this in the travel industry
Yeah, so is
before.
it like
It'd be like
lovers of
nomads
Portugal?
that, yeah, like the nomads that like to travel a
Uh-huh.
lot. Or someone that I worked with someone that was like, all they like to do is take cruises. And they could build this community of 20,000 people, of
My
all these
God.
people that just like obsessed with taking cruises. but they weren't
Wow.
selling anything on the back end. It was just a community that they needed help to foster.
So how do they justify the investment? Because obviously you're not free, right? So how do they justify that investment then?
I think because, well, it goes two ways. It's like they want that community engaged and nurtured, and they know they want to come up with an offer. But when you have a community of 18, 20,000 plus, it's a lot of work. Like it's
Yeah.
just something that you can't do on your own.
Mhm.
Because it's a lot of time too. So I think they go into it the understanding they will see an ROI, because that's
Mhm.
my strong suit with the marketing, and that's something that I'll help them with, and being very strategic with the marketing side. But in the meantime, it's just helping them get out of it so they can actually think about what they want to
Mhm.
have as an offer, and me nurturing that community.
So how do you get started with all this? Like you have this community. How do you get started building it? Obviously, I'm not going to have you portray all your secrets, but give us a couple of tips.
Of how you get started building. I think honestly, you do have to have a purpose, and you have to have some sort of niche behind it,
Mhm.
and idea. Well, I mean, like the example of the cruise, the travel
Mhm.
industry, like that's very specific, right? Or for a writer, it's very specific. If you don't have that idea, that's where it's going to go away, and you're
Yeah.
not really, it's not going to work out too well. So I think having a very like clear understanding of the type of people that you want in your community
Mhm.
would be the first and foremost. And from there, having an idea of the type of content that you want to be sharing, even if you have an offer or you don't, you really need a strategic plan when it comes to that, to be honest. Because you
Mm.
don't want to just post to post. You're not going to be in there and be like, hey, do you like McDonald's or Burger King? Like, that if you're
Yeah.
talking to a travel group, like that isn't going to really land. So you have to understand who you're talking to. And if it's your people, then it should almost just come naturally. I
You
would say.
know, it's great. Thank you for that because I see a lot of, I'm very involved in this kind of self-development, community building, e-commerce, all that kind of stuff. I consume a lot of content. And one of the things I hear a lot from people is just get started. And if you get hung up, just turn on your phone and say whatever's on your mind. And I'm like, that can work, I think, for about 2% of the people out there, because 2% of the people are really clear-minded. They're very focused, and they can continually just come up with this content and their lives are interesting enough.
Mhm,
But for 98% of the people out there, that's not going to work.
mhm.
Right.
No,
Okay.
no,
My
it
instincts
won't.
are right.
Yeah, no, it won't work. I mean, you're right. Some people, they're like fascinating and they can really go off the cuff, but for the most of us, it's like, and that's what I just recommend. Unless you're that 2%, then sure, you go for it. But otherwise, you're kind of going to be spinning your wheels, to be completely honest.
Yeah, which is
And
when
yeah. And it's like, I have another client that's in the e-commerce industry, and I manage his community. And it's the same thing. That was their biggest problem.
mm,
He'd go live every Monday, but it wouldn't be anything that's actually of service to his audience and to that community of
mhm.
some sort of takeaway. And he doesn't have an offer right now. But I said at the very end of the day, you have to at least nurture these people and like give them something tangible that they can go apply. And as soon
Yeah.
as he did that, the engagement just spiked.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that what Gary Vee always says? He's like, most people do content selfishly. The minute you do it of service, it'll be 100 times better.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So give me like something that has been like an unconventional use you've seen for community or something surprising that you've learned.
Something surprising that I've learned. I mean, I think the biggest thing that I'm doing now, which is very more marketing, but is for the people that I hear this all the time, that community, like Facebook groups are dead. And I think that is like the biggest misconception,
Yes.
that Facebook groups are dead and that you can't do lead generation out of it. Like you can't get sales. And I mean, I could like talk about that all day, because that's exactly what I do for my
Yeah.
clients. And you definitely can, for sure.
Yeah. I'm surprised because I will tell you the only reason I'm still on Facebook is because of the groups.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
the only reason I'm still on Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had several of my groups. I've had at least 2 or 3 of major groups
Yeah.
come back and try to transition to like a Slack or something like that. There's only one brand I think that has pulled it off.
Mhm.
Where they didn't just build out, like they didn't just move to a Slack channel. They built out an entire community space where all the content lived and so there was something driving you into that space, right?
Yeah.
They did it well, and they still, by the way, well, no, actually, they did it well. They took off all their Facebook things, and I think they made the transition pretty nicely. Every other group that has tried it has gone back to Facebook.
Yeah. Because it's easy. And that's why I tell clients, and that's part of like training your audience, right? So I have clients that want to move to like Money Networks or Circle, and I have a few clients that have done it the same thing very seamlessly, but they have a big enough audience and they understood it's going to take a certain period of time to get them over, but the engagement does drop. Facebook, it's easy, whether you like to admit it or not, you'll still go there
Mhm.
if you're part of a certain community because you want to still check it out. And it's way easier to do that than to have to open another platform.
Yeah, and learn another platform. I think we're all really platformed out, right? Like,
Mhm.
who wants to download an app these days unless it does something phenomenal for them, right? Yeah. I mean, I admit, I think out of the last 20 apps I've downloaded, I think I've kept 1 or 2 just because they did something that was actually really different.
Yeah.
So I'm totally with you on that. So how do you see what you do? Like, there's obviously other people that build communities, right? So how do you see what you do? How is it different than maybe some of the competition that you have?
I mean, I think that's part of it. I don't have a lot of competition, honestly. And I
Okay.
know that's like tooting my own horn, but I think the biggest thing is a lot of people coach on this. And
Mm,
I'm not a coach. Like I actually implement, I'm like a service provider. So that's the biggest difference. And people still think I coach, which is flattering, but I actually implement it. So, and then one thing, if there are other community managers, what I do is the lead generation. That's not an easy skill either.
no.
And not a lot of people are doing that aspect of actually being able to say, hey, there's a direct ROI from the lead gen and engagement that you're doing
Mm-hmm.
from a free community. And I think that's what's really setting me apart. And it shows with the types of businesses that I'm working with right now, which is very, very exciting.
So is it just you, or do you like have a team or?
I have a team, so I'm building out a team now because I'm actually scaling pretty quickly and I'm good, but I'm not that good. So I'm not a one-woman show. I'm not a one-woman show anymore. So I'm slowly transitioning into an agency.
Yeah, that's so now you have to do that for yourself, right? Like you have to like scale a different one,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know, and we always do it so well for everyone else, but not for ourselves. Just speaking as
Exactly.
a business owner.
100%. I couldn't agree more.
Oh my God. So where do you see it going though? I mean, Facebook is interesting. Everyone seems to have this love and hate relationship with them, but I think from what I've heard, they're fully invested in groups. They like
Mhm.
want groups to take off. Do you see that's the case or?
Oh yeah, I see two camps, honestly. You're either going to put all your eggs into Facebook and Facebook groups, and a lot of like the types of people I'm working with, they definitely are, or they're at least wanting to start one. And then I think it's the other camp where they don't want part of Facebook anymore. And
Mhm.
they want a community, but they're just willing to have another platform and like literally make that work in one aspect or another. I honestly think Facebook isn't going anywhere. I mean, there's 3 billion users a day still on Facebook. Like that
Yeah.
can speak volumes in and itself.
It's almost half, it's like a third of the world, right? Like,
Yeah, like I don't think it's going anywhere personally. Um, yeah, like I think they'll be around.
what about the age difference? Like, I don't see anybody under the age of 30 on Facebook.
I will say that is definitely one thing. I think I don't even know what it is anymore. Gen X,
Um,
millennials, all the
I think
20 year
it would be like young millennials and Gen Zers.
Gen Z. There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think a lot of those people, if they want a community, it's either going to be off of Facebook or it's going to be an app, and that's something that I've seen come up a lot now. is there's a lot of apps that house closed communities.
Yeah.
And that's like the new and upcoming thing,
Yeah.
which is smart too,
Yeah.
or they just won't do any of that. And it's just like direct selling from TikTok.
It's interesting. It's so fascinating to me. I have a 13-year-old now. She's 13, 13-year-old and a 9-year-old. And I also have 21 nieces and nephews. So of all ages, like from 40 straight down. And I really be like none of them, the younger ones, like anybody below the age of 30, I would even say 35 at this point. I don't see them on Facebook and they have zero interest. And I don't know how they do this community building stuff. It's going to be interesting to see how they figured it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might be back to the stone ages of the 80s where they actually had to leave their house.
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows? Okay, Amanda. So now I always end with this question. So it's an evergreen question I ask everybody, and it's, what is a weird habit or ritual you have that makes your life more joyful?
I wouldn't think this is necessarily weird. This is the only thing I could kind of come up with is so I have a 4 and a 2-year-old. So every morning at 5, we do like coffee and milk. Cheers. And that's what
Oh,
we do every morning. So that's like our little ritual, like literally 7 days a week. It's
e-
Mama, come down for coffee and milk.
at 5 in the morning,
Yeah,
even on the weekend.
even on the weekends. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll slowly transition, I'll tell you that. But I think that's wonderful because I can tell you that out of all the things you do with them when they're 25 or 30 or 40 and having their own kids, they'll remember that. That my
Oh, that makes me feel so happy,
Yeah, they
honestly.
will. Just
Um,
from my nieces and nephews, like they don't remember. Like sometimes when I talk to my kids about what they remember their childhood, I'm like, really? You didn't remember all this stuff? I put all this up. You remembered this one random moment,
yeah.
but it's a moment that's meaningful, right? That touched
Mhm.
them somehow.
Yeah.
So I love that. Thank you
Oh,
very
thanks.
much.
Thank you.
Um, so Amanda, it was a pleasure having you. If I ever need to build a community, I don't know, you might be hearing from me soon because I got all this stuff going on. But I will definitely reach out to you. And if those of you that are in the audience, if you want to hear more from Amanda, you can follow her on Instagram at Amanda Rumball. It's also linked in the show notes below. As always, I'd love to hear from you about this episode. What are the ways you build community? Hit me up on Instagram or Facebook at Farrah Haidar. Also, I'm giving away a PDF of some of the best quotes we've had on the show, beautifully designed to print and journal your thoughts. Email me at farrah@farrahhaidar.com and title it Quotes. Talk to you soon. Till then, chase your happy.